Good night, here one Johnson. I God is good and God is good all the time. My name is J.S. Beersheba. I'm here to give you a word on tonight. And the topic gonna be the treated at Beersheba. Now we left off at Hagar and Ishmael, her son, was sent away, by Abraham. His wife told him, they got to go. So now Sarah have her promised child. And then she looked at Hagar and her son, and now Sarah don't want to share her son inheritance, with the slave woman. Sarah had Abraham to send them away. And Hagar and her son left and went to a desert, of Beersheba. So this package for today, gonna be about Abraham will make an agreement with Abramelech, that he dig the well of the water. Now, the treaty of Beersheba, between Abraham and Abramelech, Abraham will plant a terrorist tree in Beersheba. So all this is gonna be going on. So treaty at Beersheba, you know, treaty is a formal concluded in a ratified agreement between countries. So Abraham and arrangements is from two different countries, making an agreement between each other. So and then also on later on in the package, a terrorist tree is, Abraham gonna plant a tree, and that tree is a memorial for great men. It is therefore appropriate that Abraham should honor God by planting this tree, and it will be a permanent memorial of a covenant that between the two, and he called out in the name of the Lord, and this a symbol gonna be the everlasting God, so God is an everlasting God, you know. So this pack is gonna be coming from Genesis, chapter 21, verse 22, 34, blameless, precog, these commanders, and both of them gonna approach Abraham. I ain't too good at pronouncing, most of these names in this Bible, so you're gonna have to excuse me. So both of them is a commandment. And so they're gonna they're approaching Abraham, and they say, God is with you, everything you do. So they're seeing how God is with Abraham. A lot of time, when things is going good and you're in battle, and you're in all kind of storm, and all of a sudden you just pull it out, they know that's God working. So they're saying that we see that, you got God with you everywhere you go, everything you do, you be successful because God is with you, so they're approaching him, they're getting scared, like God is with you in everything you do. So now they want Abraham to swear before his God, that he will not deal falsely with them, all his offspring, you know. So Abraham, and piece by piece, he's trying to get the land, everything legal, because God gave him all. Abraham is rich. Abraham gonna be on. He own all these lands, but everything had to be legal. So he's trying to make everything legal. So they saying, since you own all this here, they're saying, please don't deal with falsity. Me and my offspring. You know, we was kindly to you. Remember Egypt. Abraham went to Egypt, and for him to be nice, that because God had put stuff on him. So he was saying he was being nice, but he let y'all go. So they want Abraham to show love and kindness to them, of their country. Since Abraham are now residing as a foreigner, and he said that he have shown kindness to Abraham. So he showed kindness to Abraham. So he want Abraham to show kindness to his country and to him and his offspring. So Abraham said, he swears. Now Abraham come to make this land that God promised. Now God promised him this land, so now he's trying to make this land legal. So now Abraham complained to Abramelech, about the well of water, that is serving that has size. So he asked him about this well of water, because on the last package, Hagar had flee. she went to the desert of Beersheba, so she was living there for quite a while. You know, and when she first got there, her supplies had ran out. She had no water, no food, so her and the baby just got drained. They got exhausted, for being weak, and so God, after she got through talking with God, she raised up, she opened her eyes, and when she opened her eyes, she saw that well of water. So it wasn't there because she needed water. So God provided that water to her. So now Abraham asking about this well of water. So now remember, Hagar also was living there, and God had provided, that well of water to her because her water and her food had ran out. So they had on the desert, they had no well of water, they had nothing, but that river was she bending over, and that wasn't clean for her to eat. She was just smashing the water on her face, So God power placed that well of water there, and for Hagar to drink, her and her son. So now Abraham is questioning, where does well of water come from? So blamesman says he don't know, you know, who had done this, he heard about it only today, so he don't know anything about it, because when Hagar was on that desert, they did not have no water, no drinking water for her and her son, and but then when she opened her eyes. God had provided that for her. So Abraham brought sheep, calves, and he gave them to this king. And the two men. You remember it was two men and a blanchman. So it was two of them had questioned Abraham about that God is with you with everything you do. So the two men, Abraham, the men they made a treaty. A treaty mean agreement with one another. So because they told Abraham, now you swear that you're not gonna falsely accuse us or treat us bad. Him and his offspring in this country. Because Abraham about to own all that. He making everything legal. So Abraham set apart 7 lambs from the flocks, and then to command the king, asked Abraham, what all this mean, that you set apart, for us, 7 lambs, so Abraham getting 7 lambs together and setting it apart, so now the king then asking him, what does all this here mean? What does this mean that you getting 7 lambs and you setting it apart like this here? So Abraham replied, accept these 7 lambs, from my hands, as a witness that he dug this well. Nobody don't know nothing about the well, but it's on Abraham's lot, on his land, So Abraham started digging, and he had 7 lambs, and the 7 lambs represent a witness that he digged this well. He had the men right there approaching him about God. Nobody know nothing about the well. So Abraham started digging, and he had told them, this is y'all, it's a witness that he did this well. Because nobody know nothing about the well. So Abraham made an oath, acknowledged that legal rights, to the well of water, making a permanent resident possible for a small piece of the land that God promised. So that's a small little piece of land. God promised him all that, but this small piece of land right here, he making it legal. He acknowledged, he making an oath for them to acknowledge the legal rights to this well of water. So he having legal rights to this well of water. It's gonna be his water. So he making everything legal, everything that God promised to him. Because you got to make everything legal. You can't just say you own this. You got to make everything legal. God promised you all this here. But everything still have to be legal. Paperwork have to be done. So that's what Abraham is doing. So they acknowledge that Abraham ownership, of this land. They're gonna respect him. All Abraham had to do is swear that he will not treat them unfairly. Other than that, they asking him about this and about that, protect them and don't treat them for that means they acknowledge Abraham ownership of the land. and Abraham trying to make everything legal, So the treaty agreement that he made in Beersheba, that he dig this well, you know. So now the well of water is his, he made it legal, So that place was called Beersheba, because the two men swore an oath there, they swore an oath there, and that's why it called treaty Beersheba, because they made an oath right there in Beersheba in that desert, in that land. I mean, so now after treaty had been made at Beersheba, blandishments and Pekah, the commander, they returned to their land in Philistine. So after they did the agreement, they acknowledged Abraham ownership of the land. So they made agreement in Beersheba. So that's why it called Treaty Beersheba. Because they made all kind of agreement. They made agreement. Abraham made the first agreement he made with them, that he swore that he will not treat them unfairly. Him, his country, and his offspring. Abraham swore that he will not treat them unfairly. So that Abraham made an oath to that. That's the first agreement he did. The second agreement he did, that he dig that well. They acknowledge his ownership of the well. So he made everything legal and permanent. So that well in Beersheba is for Abraham. Okay, so now this king here in Pekah, they return to Philistine. They approach Abraham, they acknowledge that he have ownership, and they wanted him to just swear that he would not, turn around and treat them badly, him and his offspring in his country. Abraham swore, he made agreement with that. So now Abraham planted, he finished doing all that agreement. So now Abraham planted a tamarisk tree, so in Beersheba. Now he called on the name of the Lord, you know, God, everlasting God, you know, and this tree here, he honoring this to God, So Abraham stayed in the land of Philistine for a long time. He was making everything legal. Then he also planted a tree, and that he acknowledged and honored God, So meaning Abraham swore not to deceive a blandishment, all his offspring, again, and to deal kindly with all that in the land. So this king, he agreed to recognize Abraham ownership, of a well at the place which become known as Beersheba, the well of serve, a well of the oak. So and also the tamarisk tree. Abraham wanted to honor. He wanted to honor God. And he said, he's called out on the name of the Lord. He said, everlasting God. Our God is real. He's an everlasting God. And that's why he want us to acknowledge him, on earth. Because we can live to everlasting with him, you know, once we do what we're supposed to do on earth. We have to acknowledge him, we have to acknowledge his power, his glory, and everything else. Abraham, you know, um, they came to Abraham and said, we know that your God is with you with everything you do. So sometimes, people can acknowledge a righteous person. They can recognize God work in someone. If you constantly falling down, you in a pit, you in war, you in battle, and every time you look around, you pulling out of it. You know, they know that's nobody but God power is working inside it, working inside of you, and inside of you, and working in your life. So they see the power that God is working in Abraham. They say everything you do, you got God with you. So they be knowing God power with certain people, and Abraham is a righteous person. At all, and he can be well trusted. He also trusts God. Because the next package is gonna be Abraham being tested. Gonna be tested with the child the promised child that he waited for a long time. That go to show you how much he loved God and how much he trusts God fully. That he gonna wait a long time for this child, but he gonna take that child and do whatever God had tell him to do. And at the same time, he gonna still have faith in God. Because he's gonna tell his servants, look, we coming back. He know God was gonna provide. It's hard for all of us. I know they got some people, it's hard for some of us. We trust God, we have faith, but do we fully trust God like Abraham? So that's all the word I have for you on tonight. And I see y'all on the next video. Y'all have a blessed and safe night.